Hello everyone, the Nod-Krai beta is finally out, introducing new regional mechanics and characters, and Flins will be one of the new 5-star characters coming out in patch 6.0, and he's currently looking like a strong DPS provided you have Ineffa. So let's take a look into his beta kit to see how Flins works and how good he is currently. But as always, remember that this is very early information from beta, so very subject to change. Before anything, it is important to understand the major team building mechanic that impacts all Nod-Krai characters called Moonsign. Your party will have a different Moonsign depending on the number of Nod-Krai characters you have on the team. One Nod-Krai character means the party has a nascent Gleam Moonsign, and two Nod-Krai characters means the party has an ascendant Gleam Moonsign. The level of Moonsign determines and enables certain buffs from the Nod-Krai artifact sets, weapons, and character talent abilities. And if you have a higher level Moonsign, you will also get any bonuses or effects of the lower level Moonsign unless explicitly stated. For example, Llama's passive gives buffs depending on whether your party has nascent Gleam or ascendant Gleam. If you have one Nod-Krai character in the party, you get the first part of her passive that allows bloom related reactions to crit. If you have two Nod-Krai characters in the party, you'll get both buffs from her passive, the ability for bloom related reactions to crit and extra crit for lunar bloom damage. Many of the important existing buffs require the party to have ascendant Gleam, which heavily incentivizes at least two Nod-Krai characters for these new Nod-Krai teams. Now, let's discuss Flins' initial beta kit. He is a 5-star Electro Polearm user that ascends with crit damage. As expected, Flins is the lunar-charged DPS designed to work very well with Ineffa. His special passive is the exact same thing as Ineffa's, enabling lunar charge, buffing its base damage, and counting as a Nod-Krai character for the Moonsign. His A4 gives up to an extra 160 EM based on his attack, and his A1 gives an additional buff to lunar charge damage if the party has a total of 2 Nod-Krai characters. His actual abilities and playstyle work similarly to Veresa's combat design. Pressing Flins' skill gives him an electro infusion for 10 seconds and also enables use of an additional skill called Northland Spear Storm. This has a fixed 6-second cooldown and is just an additional attack, but it also enables use of Flins' special burst. His special burst deals a total of 2 instances of AoE electro damage, which is considered lunar charge damage, assuming you have at least 2 Nod-Krai characters on the team, which should be the case. Since this is tied to the special skill use, you can use his special burst twice every rotation at C0 with his lower energy cost. His normal burst has a great animation, but like Veresa, you will not be using it in normal gameplay. So his current gameplay loop at C0 looks to be support skills, Flynn's skill for the electro infusion, Flynn's special skill into special burst, do some normal attacks, then use his special skill and burst again once it comes back up. And since his special burst is his main source of direct lunar charge damage, they will be the majority of Flins' damage. That's everything on Flins' base kit. In terms of his initial beta constellation, C1 reduces his special skill cooldown to 4 seconds and gives him energy when lunar charge is triggered, allowing Flins to do 1 extra EQ in his rotation. C2 grants an additional lunar charge attack and allows his attacks to shred electro res as long as you have 2 Nod-Krai characters on the team. C3 increases his burst talent level by 3, C4 gives him extra attack percent and buffs his A4 passive to give him more EM. C5 increases his skill talent level by 3, and lastly C6 elevates the damage of lunar charge for himself as well as the entire party as long as you have 2 Nod-Krai characters on the team. Elevation is actually a new specific keyword, and from what we currently know, it is a direct multiplier increase and not just added damage bonus, which makes it pretty strong. Overall, other than the C5, his cons look pretty good, nothing too out of the ordinary at first glance. Now let's discuss Flins' potential build options. For weapons, his signature is his clear best in slot. Gives a ton of crit, increased lunar charge damage, and extra energy to ensure he has no energy problems to use his special burst. Other 5-star crit stat sticks will likely be fine to use as well. The 4 that I'm currently eyeing are Jade Spear, Staff of Homa, Vortex Vanquisher, and Ineffa signature. But the one 5-star weapon that looks really good at the current moment, assuming you don't overcap on crit rate, is Staff of Scarlet Sands, Sino's signature. For 4-star weapons, both Battle Pass weapons are great because of the crit rate substat and the EM if you're using Ballad of the Fjords, and lastly, a great free-to-play option is the new Nod-Krai craftable polearm. Attack percent substat is great, and the special passive increases lunar charge damage by 48% at R5, assuming you have 2 Nod-Krai characters on the team, which again should be the case. But of course, for exact detailed weapon comparisons, wait until close to official release. For artifact sets, his clear best option is the new Nod-Krai main DPS set. The 2-piece gives 80 EM, and the 4-piece gives crit rate depending on the number of Nod-Krai characters on the team when the party triggers lunar reactions. With 1 Nod-Krai character, the 4-piece gives 15% crit rate. With 2 Nod-Krai characters, the set gives 30% crit rate. With our current info, the artifact sets are the one example of nascent and ascendant gleam bonuses not stacking, but this is subject to change. On top of that, the set gives a team-wide 10% lunar reaction damage increase based on the number of other Nod-Krai artifact set users. So for example, if Flins is on the new 4-piece DPS set, and Ino is on the team using the new 4-piece Nod-Krai support set, you'll get a team-wide 20% lunar reaction damage bonus. There is a possibility that it's actually 20% plus 20% totaling 40%, but there's no confirmation of this from my knowledge, and 20% is a safer assumption. For main stats, generally speaking, it should be attack hourglass, attack goblet, and crit circlet. Remember that Flins does a lot of lunar-charged damage, which doesn't scale off of damage bonus, so don't use electro goblet. Finally, let's cover Flins' potential best teams. Due to how Nod-Krai team building heavily incentivizes two Nod-Krai characters to get full advantage at the new artifact sets and the character kits, you want to fulfill this requirement, otherwise you lose a lot of damage. By far the best Nod-Krai teammate for Flins is Ineffa. Not only does she have good personal damage and a comfy shield for defensive utility, but more importantly, she gives an EM buff and also buffs the base damage of lunar charge, which greatly benefits Flins' damage. Flins' primary and best team archetype is simply a pure lunar charge team with Ineffa, C6 Ino or Yelan, both look to perform similarly, and a final support. The best last support looks to be Sucrose because of TTDS, 4-piece Viridescent Venerer, and an EM buff, but Shilonen and Kazuha are also usable. Looking at many team DPS calcs from multiple great theory crafters like Hyperwebster, Vomvi, Flip, Harumi, and Bell, the general DPS range of this team is about 100k to 105k DPS. Obviously, early calcs are subject to change, and there is a big range depending on the different TC assumptions and whether or not you have C6 Ino. But the general idea is that currently, in his best team, Flins looks to be a top tier DPS on par with most Notlan DPSs and Nivilet in terms of sheet DPS. If you don't have Ineffa, the current best looking alternatives are replacing her slot for Fischl, Sara, or Yansan. However, not only do you lose a source of defensive utility, but you lose a lot of damage because Ineffa is such a good support for Flins. Overall, I've seen early calcs of Ineffa-less teams reaching about 70k to 75k DPS, which is arguably still usable, but definitely nowhere near the best. The other team archetype that could be promising is slotting in Lalma for a quick bloom team, with the final support being an offfield Hydro support like C6 Ino, Yelan, or Xingqiu. I haven't seen calcs on this yet, but it will probably be worse than Flins' lunar charge teams, but could still be decently usable. And that's everything on Flins as of now. Overall, Flins is a pretty straightforward character to play and is currently looking like a top tier TPS according to early calcs, as long as you have Ineffa. Not only does Ineffa count as a second Nod-Krai character to activate all of Flins' inherent buffs in his kit and enable the full benefits from the new Nod-Krai artifact sets, but she also is a big source of off-field damage, provides a shield, and greatly buffs Flins' own damage with her EM buff and buff duty base lunar charge damage. If you don't have Ineffa, sure you can use Ino to maintain the two Nod-Krai team building requirement, but replacements such as Fischl, Sara, or Yansan just don't provide as big of a buff to Flins' damage as Ineffa does. This is very similar to the Skirk Escoffier situation not so long ago. Ineffa for Flins is like Escoffier for Skirk, but you can definitely argue that the Ineffa Flins scenario is actually worse because Flins' other options don't give him much defensive utility, which may feel worse in practice, while Skirk had options like Sitlali. So based on the current numbers, Flins is looking to really want Ineffa on his team. This may change in the future as more Nod-Krai characters are released, allowing for more options. However, even if this does happen, because of how much Ineffa's kit benefits Flins, I don't think she will be leaving his team anytime soon and will remain his best support. But of course, this is just Flins' initial beta kit, so anything could change in the upcoming weeks. I hope this initial overview and analysis on Flins' kit was helpful to y'all. I will continue to analyze any significant beta changes made to Flins, so if you want to keep track of the beta changes, I highly recommend subbing to the channel to keep up to date with the latest beta news and TC influence analysis. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or like the video if you enjoyed. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day.